Have gown. Will wed. A workplace-ish romance. Written by Killian McRae. Episode 5.
Chapter 17. Xavier. 6 faces, 6 names, 6 terrible options. Rosalind cycled through the profiles in measured reserve, keeping the short stack of manila folders leveled like a gambler's hand, levitated over her bowl of gazpacho. Is something the matter, Ms. Betters? I met her gaze across the table, faking confusion and concern. Next to me, Jack mirrored my expression.
No, just... Wow. I wasn't expecting such uniquely qualified candidates.
I reached out and tapped the top of the pile. The man pictured must have been 65, if not a day. The length of the grey hair coming out of his ears challenged that on his head. Dr. Glamboff was an Olympic champion, discus throwing, won a silver for Yugoslavia. He also holds a PhD in electronic engineering.
Had we discovered electricity when he was in school?
Rosalind mumbled, bringing a bubbly giggle from Jack. I silenced my employee and friend with a scathing look. I assure you that I have reviewed each one of these candidates. Each meets your list of qualifications, and what's more telling, mine. Jack also helped, if that reassures you at all. Huffing, she splayed the binder open on the table.
Maybe I should ask for his input then.
She raised a spoonful of soup to her mouth, but hesitated, eyeing the perplexed man sitting to my right.
Well, Jack?
After several moments of and Jack crossed his arms and grinned.
Actually, I only pre-screened the files. Zav's the guy that reached out and interviewed. Besides, my man-hunting skills are a little rusty. I've been happily married for quite some time.
She appraised him with new eyes.
Brilliant. Actually, I'd find a married man's opinion even more valuable.
She selected a file at random and turned it to face us.
Tell me, Jack, what is it about Sing Woo that Mr. Holmes feels would suit me? Is it the fact that he's broken off engagements 4 times? That he's rumored to be paying serious bank to the Communist Party to get preferential treatment for his shipments into prime Chinese markets? Or do you think it's the fact that he's almost 300 pounds?
I clicked my tongue. Ms. Betters, as a woman in tech, someone whose achievements are sometimes seen as tied to her appearance, I'd expect you to be more sensitive about size.
A few pounds is one thing, but this? They didn't name a district in Beijing after him. He is a district in Beijing.
As soon as the words left her mouth, shame tapped her on the shoulder and glared at her long and hard. With a sigh, she closed the folder again and reached out for her wine.
I know you must have put a lot of time into this, and I don't mean to discredit your work. Only, I don't know, I guess I just expected so much more than this. I expected...
Her eyes trapped me.
A higher opinion from you for someone meant for me.
My compassionate tone accompanied my hand reaching across the table. I do apologize, but cut me a little slack. It's my first time trying to do something like this. But you're right. I should have seen each of these men from your perspective as a potential husband, not mine. She straightened the pile of folders before handing them back across the table.
You're welcome to call any of them you think are cute. No reason both of us should be disappointed.
I smiled and ran the pad of my thumb over the back of Rosalind's knuckles. How about a second round? I'll put together the files and have them couriered for your perusal. We can talk once you have a chance to review. Keeping her gaze fixed on the circles I drew into the back of her hand, it took her a moment to answer.
Yeah, okay.
There was a beep. Rosalind withdrew the phone from her pocket and awakened the screen.
Speaking of large Chinese men, I have several on their way to my office right now. Can I ask you to pick up the bill and charge it against our ledger?
If my current schemes played out, That wasn't the only thing I'd be picking up. Of course, I'll be in touch with Carmen shortly. And Rosalind?
Yes?
Don't worry. I promise I won't let you down. It took 3/4 of a second after Rosalind Betters was out of earshot for Jack to round on me.
FYI. I so noticed you traipsing your fingers over one of her erotic zones. Did we not discuss that? And why it's a bad idea?
My glass vibrated as I placed it on the table with a little too much oomph. I was only trying to show compassion, maintain her faith.
Sell that crap to someone who's buying,
Jack retorted, slamming his card down without even looking at the bill the waiter had just deposited.
A minute of that rub-a-dub-dubbing, matched with that seductive stare you were throwing her. You have the devil's eyes, you know that? Back in college, we used to call dark peepers like your sex eyes. Hell, you could have had me in bed with a package like that.
My chest shook with silent laughter. I think your husband would have my head on a platter if I ever made a pass at you.
This isn't funny, Xav. This is a huge opportunity. Yes, I thought you were crazy when you accepted it, but you did accept it. Now you got to deliver, or we're going to be the laughing stock of San Francisco.
I sat back and inhaled deeply, drawing in the ambient aromas. Pesto, fresh bread baked in a local oven, the lingering scent of lavender.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Jack sighed as he signed off on the bill.
Lunches like this don't pay for themselves, you know.
Chapter 18. Rosalind. A fine line existed between fashion and sadism. On days such as these, I tripped that line, sometimes literally, through an obsession with high-heeled shoes with high-heeled prices. The meetings had started at 7 a.m. with a conference call to parties in Germany, Italy, and Switzerland. They had ended at 8:30 p.m. with a sayonara to Mr. Akiko in Tokyo. In between, I'd assured, denied, reported, projected, and otherwise labored, all while strolling the floor in a pair of pumps that should have appeared in Clue as a possible murder weapon. A year ago, I would have ended up at one of the chic bars in North Beach after that kind of marathon, ordering something with zing. Unfortunately, that sort of joie de vivre had said so long since then. The concept of drinking alone didn't exactly appeal, especially in public, and especially in an area where one of my competitors, or worse yet, employees, might catch me. Now at the end of a hard day, nothing sounded better than a cup of cinnamon apple tea, sipped while stroking Strudel's ears and watching Mae West. But no sooner had I filled the kettle than my security system buzzed. Not that I was expecting anyone, but all of the sudden, my pulse spiked. In the last text message I'd gotten from Xavier, he teased me with a threat to drop in unexpectedly, to analyze you with the element of surprise. I didn't exactly mind the possibility. Strudel barked as the buzzer went off again, and I light-footed across the room to answer. Hello?
Ha! I knew you'd be up this late.
Kamakshi's voice sounded like a bad Dalek impression through the static on the comm.
Let me up, it's freezing out here.
When she emerged from the elevator, however, she had both her coat and sweater slung over her arm. I thought you said it was cold. She clicked her tongue.
That was outside. Inside. It's too hot.
How can you say that? It's freezing. I'd turn up the furnace, but it already costs a fortune to heat this place. I'm going to make some tea. Want some?
No, I'll just get something cold from the refrigerator.
Good luck with that. I haven't even opened it since I got back from Japan.
How do you survive, eating so little?
I eat plenty, just not at home. You know that I've never really done breakfast, and I usually get lunch at work. Since the C-Tech deal, dinner is either a business meeting or going out with Xav. Her head peeked up from the fridge.
Who?
You know Xavier Holmes, the man I told you about? the headhunter who's looking for my husband. She stood, crossing her arms as the bottom half of her body stayed hidden.
I'm confused. You're going out with him while he's busy recruiting other men for you to date?
My cheeks grew flush, sending heat prickling across my chest. I'm not going out with Zav. I'm just spending time with him for professional purposes, so he can match me with someone who will work for me. Kamakshi's hand wrapped around the handle of the fridge.
Is he spending any time with the men he's thinking of matching you with?
I'd never thought about that. Then again, like most women, I assumed men were much simpler creatures. I trust his judgment, I said, without addressing the comment directly. When Kamakshi dipped into the fridge and laughed, I thought it might be at my obvious avoidance of the question. When instead she emerged with a half-full pint of Trader Joe's limeade and a stack of manila folders, however, I had to join her. Wow, I must have been really tired when I put those in there. My friend tipped the collection my direction, handing them off to me.
You should take an extra week off when you come to India for the wedding. You're clearly fried.
Maybe. Hello, what is this? A stranger's penmanship met my eyes when I opened the folder. Most of the documents inside resembled what one might expect to see while perusing a psychiatrist's portfolio. Not that I would know. I recognized the penmanship. I'd seen Xavier sign his name to enough checks over the last few weeks to recognize his deliberate script. Kamakshi pivoted, reading over my shoulder.
Arrest files? Why do you have arrest files in your refrigerator?
They're not arrest files, Cam. This is them. Tea forgotten, I rushed to the table and arranged the individual reports like a deck of cards. Not every candidate was as eye-catching, but the first few presented a solid package, a drastic improvement in quality since the first round. Still, me being me, I was able to find a flaw when I began to drill down into the details. By the time I reached the final folder, my hopes sagged like melted mozzarella. A crunch met my ears, sending a chill down my spine. I looked up to see Kamakshi holding a green apple in her hands, minus one dainty little bite. I have apples?
Of course you don't.
Kamakshi took another mouthful, which sadly didn't stop her from talking.
I carry them with me lately. I'm hungry all the time these days.
Nerves, I guess. My eyes perused file number 5. The man within, a third-generation wine grower from Napa, was already partially bald, even though he was only 32. Not that he wasn't attractive in his own way, and the fact that one of his hobbies included gourmet cooking wasn't exactly objectionable. Still, am I hoping for too much? I was thinking I'd get an impulse or a thrill out of at least one of these, but they're just all sort of blah.
Do they not meet all your qualifications?
I shrugged as I closed Mr. Napa and shuffled out the last file, noting that there was a little star on the front cover. Meaningless doodle or something special? They do, but I just... Oh my God, no way it can't be. As the folder flopped open, and I reeled back in my chair, my concerned friend swooped in like a mother bird protecting its young.
What is it? What? No way!
I looked to Kamakshi. This has to be a joke, right?
How could it be? How could Xavier possibly know your history with him of all people?
We don't have history, not unless you count that 5-minute conversation I had with him at the football game once. As for the crush, you're the only one I ever told. I stood, planting fists on my hips. Kane Kennedy, Kane more than freaking Abel Kennedy.
I don't remember the freaking part.
Kamakshi said. It was implied. Jesus criminy, Cam. He's the whole reason I came up with that cash before Cox saying. The things I wanted to do with that man would have led to me failing out in no time flat.
I think you mean flat on your back.
If this had been any other job search, my next move would have been to phone Carmen or even Xavier himself to request an appointment. Given that Kane Kennedy's digits stared back at me from the paper in my clutches made that unnecessary. Would it make me seem desperate if I called him out of the blue? It's a sign. I grabbed my phone off the counter. It's too big of a coincidence to be just, well, coincidence.
That statement defies logic. Roz?
So does finding the only man I ever lusted after in college in a stack of potential husbands. But at this point, I'm just going with it. In my mind, my imagination went from start to finished in a blink. I pictured introducing myself Mrs. Rosalind Kennedy. It had a ring to it, didn't it? And if he turned out to be the one, my potential married name soon wouldn't be the only thing with a ring.
Chapter 19. Xavier. I barely kept the overly eager attendant from topping me off. One glass of wine had relaxed me. The second glass had emboldened me. A third glass would make me an unpredictable fool.
Perhaps she is not coming, monsieur?
A man who lived and died on tips may have shown a bit more compassion. I looked back over my shoulder and switched to my native tongue. Parlez-vous vraiment français, ou faites-vous seulement semblant? Meaning, do you really speak French, or are you just pretending? This waiter wouldn't be the first Frenchman I'd encountered with a fake accent meant to gloss over a less than impressive working competence of the tongue. His tone was a little off. Even though not a true Frenchman myself, I could deduce that much. The waiter's eyes smiled.
Oui, monsieur. I am originally from Strasbourg. And you?
Ah, that explained it. I turned back to the front door. Je suis originaire du Québec. Then, continuing in English, I asked, how do you know I'm waiting for a she?
You keep looking at your hand, monsieur.
When confusion twisted my face, the waiter continued,
Your finger, in particular, as though you are thinking there's something missing there. You'll, how is it to say, pop the question, tonight.
That put a stopper on my admiration of the man's insight. Yes, I was planning on asking Rosalind an important question, and on the topic of marriage as well. Perhaps not the one I might have originally anticipated. Not quite. She'll be here, I assured him. Thank you. At that very moment, a dome of blonde hair, pinned in intricate patterns, swiveled in my direction. Rosalind's face erupted into a smile when our eyes met. I waved and tried not to grin like a gremlin as I watched her bounce across the dining room. The brown leather-bound portfolio sitting on the empty chair beside me called to me, anticipating the moment in the forthcoming conversation when I'd lean over to retrieve it. Rosalind would find round two's candidate pool truly eye-opening, despite the fact that it included only one profile. My years of experience and instinct had convinced me the sole candidate remaining was the one with whom she was truly meant to be. Ms. Betters, you're looking fine this evening. I rose and offered a hand. More than hyperbolic chit-chat, she exceeded any definition of fine.
Not bad yourself, Xav.
She perused my suit, from the grey tie to the platinum cufflinks. She nodded approvingly as she shook my hand.
Not bad at all. Shall we sit?
Yes, please. My hand reached down cautiously to fish out the folder as Rosalind ordered a glass of Zinfandel. From a distance, the waiter gave silent affirmation that this woman had been worth the wait. I nodded as though to say, yes, she certainly is. Perhaps it was only in my eyes, or then again, maybe it was true that Rosalind's appearance had taken on an ethereal quality. She glowed like a child who had managed to squirrel away some secret joy, and I wanted nothing more than to learn what was fueling her giddiness. You seem to be all bubbly and bold tonight.
I feel...
Rosalind's voice trailed off as she glanced up, as though the proper term were dangling in the air there for her to discover.
resplendent.
Her cheeks held a blush that could only come from too much smiling. Her eyes sparkled. Her reed-like body swayed in the breeze of contentment. I almost reached across the table to take her hand, fearing she might fly off. Business, I reminded myself. Business first. I reached down to the folio to pull out the folder when Rosalind asked,
How did you know?
My open hand stilled. Know what? Rosalind leaned in, her voice hushed.
About him.
Him? I picked my brain for clues, but the infernal organ proved uncooperative. Him who? Her humor-flecked statement accompanied a teasing eye roll.
After the first group of, and please don't take this as an insult, bozos you pushed on me, I honestly thought you were off your rocker. But then I saw the file of the second group of candidates. And now I understand why you're so high in demand. Oh my God, Xav, you're worth every penny.
If the waiter had jumped on top of the table, stripped down to his boxers, and declared his undying love for the Giants' first baseman, I could not have been more confused. Second group of candidates?
The ones you messaged over the other night.
Her matter-of-fact words fell over themselves to get out.
Carmen said she had a few things sent over, but with all the meetings I've had her coordinating lately, she didn't get a chance to look through them herself. And when I saw Kane's file, I just knew Oh, there he is.
Wait, what? Kane? No. My hand slammed on the table as I shot to my feet. Rosalind, however, didn't notice. She was in the process of being a human tractor beam, reeling in the approach of a man who looked like an Olympic swimmer, dressed in Armani.
Kane!
Rosalind resumed, jumping and waving.
Over here.
Any woman could fall for Kane Kennedy on his looks alone. Back when I had been pursuing this placement with a proper amount of self-disinterest, I recalled having this thought. Like his unrelated and infamous namesake, Kennedy possessed a profile that could melt polar ice caps and, dressed like GQ, had him under contract. With his blonde hair crew-cut and a grey suit over a muscular frame that would have made even Jack question his own fidelity, he drew more than a few glances as he approached. Kennedy leaned into Rosalind, kissing her on the cheek, a cheek which this morning I had begun to think of as mine.
Sorry it took so long. Closest place I could find to park was 2 blocks away.
He turned his attention to me, sticking out his hand and his chin.
Mr. Holmes, so nice to see you again.
I glared momentarily at fingernails perfectly squared and polished to a shine, wondering if it would be inappropriate to grip the manicured man hands until I heard cracking. Schooling my inner caveman, I instead reached out and gave a moderated, firm handshake. Home? Actually, 2 things became obvious to me in that moment. 1, Rosalind and Kane had known each other prior to my introduction. And 2, if I didn't keep my wits about me, I'd lash out from the frustration of what was going on and ruin any chance I had to undo whatever it was that was happening.
Kane, sit down.
Rosalind suggested, leading him to the chair next to hers.
I was just telling Xav about how brilliant he is.
I took on my cultivated professional air. You didn't get as far in the business world as I had without learning to wear shine on your face while your soul was drowning. One of my favorite subjects. I turned serious eyes to Kennedy. You didn't mention you already knew Rosalind.
You never asked.
He answered like the scum-sucking bastard he actually was.
Besides, technically I didn't know Rosalind. I only knew of her.
But I knew him.
Rosalind jumped in.
Maybe we never really hung out, but we had a few friends in common and had a few meaningless conversations. We were just laughing about it this morning at breakfast.
We met for breakfast.
Kane inserted when I failed to keep my eyes from bugging out.
Rosalind didn't mean to imply she'd slept over.
Oh.
Rosalind's hands slapped over her mouth.
Oh no, Zav, I didn't mean like over breakfast.
My hands flattened against the air. It's none of my business. Mr. Kennedy, I wonder if I could speak with Ms. Betters in private?
But he just sat down.
Rosalind argued. As though to further the statement, the waiter chose that moment to pour a glass of wine from the opened bottle on the table for Kane.
It's no problem, Rose.
Kane got to his feet, leaving his only recently unfolded napkin on the table and leaning over to Rosalind to plant a chaste kiss.
He just wants to make sure I haven't gamed his system or somehow gotten to you through devious means. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Professional, calm, courteous. I repeated the words in my head like a mantra, closing my eyes and collecting myself before speaking.
You're upset.
Rosalind jumped in before I could speak.
You're upset that I called Kane on my own.
Dark amusement coursed through my tone. I knew you were aggressive. It's why Beta House is so successful, but that's really going after something. Her words hollowed out in the air.
I guess I don't understand why, though. Everything's come together perfectly.
Except for the fact that either one or both of you withheld information from me. I huffed. Ms. Betters, Rosalind, my methods are unorthodox, but they're finely tuned and very successful. They are also based on a premise that the two parties I connect have no prior relationship with each other, unless I'm told otherwise. A past acquaintance, no matter how brief or seemingly trivial, throws off my assessment. If I had known you and Mr. Kennedy.
Did I miss the part where I was supposed to disclose to you the names of every man I've ever been attracted to? Is there something you see that suggests Kane, who you found and determined met all of my qualifications without my help, and I aren't compatible?
I ground my teeth, wishing I was a less ethical man. No, but...
Then what's the big deal?
She interrupted. How did she get her hands on those darn files? I'd been scouring my office since that day after I'd shown up at her flat and discovered her sick, and I was sure I'd never sent them to Beta House or... Oh, heavens, no. Suddenly, I remembered the disappointment that was the contents of Rosalind's fridge. I must have left the files inside when forced to navigate around too many takeout boxes, right where she'd stumble onto them. It's not a big deal at all. I folded up the half napkin on my lap and left it on the table. Since it seems the reason for this meeting is now passé, I really should be going. Please give Mr. Kennedy my regards. For once, I'd managed to stun her into silence. I fled before time erased the advantage. Outside, I caught Kane's eye across the parking lot. His features took on an air of smugness, usually reserved for dirty-dealing bookies. Rosalind hadn't picked up on the fact that I was falling in love with her, but Kane did. He probably had been suspicious when I admitted to almost kissing her at the charity ball. And like a well-seasoned player, he waited until I had placed too many chips on the table for the hand I held, then called my bluff. Chapter 20. Xavier. The woman waiting in my office turned away from the view of the skyline and the boats threatening to brush the underbelly of the Bay Bridge when I entered the room and reached out a hand. Miss Purée, nice to meet you at last. Rosalind spoke so highly of you. She returned both the smile and her hand.
Likewise. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice.
15 minutes later, we had done away with most of the formalities of what she was seeking in an assistant and why. I'd explained my philosophy and, more importantly, my process, adding that Jack Colburn, whom I was placing in charge on her file, would observe her at her office as part of the process. I assure you, it's all very non-intrusive. He'll just linger in the background and watch, then meet a few minutes with you afterward for clarification on what he saw.
Your activities with Rosalind were hardly non-intrusive.
So, Rosalind had been talking about me to her best friend? Interesting. If I still thought I had a chance of winning her, That news would have sent my ego booming. As it stood, any place I still held in her life was terminally professional. I should be happy about that. Kamakshi wasn't the first equally profitable client I'd received based on her recommendation. If I got nothing more out of pining over her, at least it added to my bottom line. Each job we take is addressed with the methods best suited it. Some are more intimate, Ms. Betters's in particular. I fixed my eyes on my monitor. Perhaps sometime early next week? Looks like Jack's open Wednesday morning. She checked her calendar and confirmed. By the way, how is she? Kamakshi grinned.
The client who must not be named, you mean?
The corners of my mouth twitched. I haven't seen her. She and Mr. Kennedy must be hitting it off.
So she tells me.
Kamakshi said.
He's harder to read though. Insight is your gift, not mine.
Her eyes narrowed as though that action could squeeze an admission from me. I, however, was far too polished to fall for the tactic. Then, out of nowhere, the beautiful Indian woman shifted gears.
Did you know I'm getting married in a week, Mr. Holmes?
I deposited folded hands on the desk. I knew you were engaged. Rosalind, Ms. Betters mentioned it. I didn't know that it was so soon, though. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Her suspicions sharpened further when she caught my fingers twisted around a stretch of flesh on my left hand. Third finger.
Do you know that my engagement is part of the reason Roz came to see you? It disrupted her trajectory. It used to be our trajectory. We had this saying back in college, bras before bros, cash before cocks. But we were younger then, saw the world in black and white. It's just taken Roz longer to start picking up on all the grey areas she's neglected for so long. Mind you, I never would have suspected she'd get to this point until she was approaching 30. But that's her way. All in or all out.
Given the way she'd gone from being a close friend to a ghost on the edge of my memory, I didn't doubt it. Of course, that had not been my first indication. I could tell that from her bedroom. The sip of water she had just taken did a 180, creating aqua art on the clear surface of my desk.
What?
Liberating a cloth handkerchief from inside my jacket pocket, I leapt up and began blotting as Kamakshi did her best to recover.
You've been in Rosalind's bedroom?
Only in a... I searched the air for the correct term. Professional manner.
I see.
She drew out the acknowledgement, imbuing it with suspicion.
Kane's freed up huge swathes of his time to spend with her. Rosalind's been positively swept off her feet. They seem like a perfect couple, reports say. You did a good job.
All in a day's work. Despite the dismissive comment, I had to inwardly lecture myself when my nails dig into the heels of my hands. Unclenching both my fists and my jaw, I reminded myself of the money that would be coming to me if Rosalind and Kane became engaged. Only I didn't want it anymore. It felt like blood money with my heart as the victim.
And now, thanks to you, she'll be engaged in a week.
Those words packed all the wallop of a prize fighter into my gut. What? That soon?
Remember, she already has the wedding arranged, except for the groom part. It's only a few months away. She's planning on popping the question in India while they're there for my wedding.
Of course, she's going to ask him. I challenged her to, but after I learned what a traditionalist she was, I had to wonder if she'd actually do it.
Did you think Rosalind would undertake a project like this and not keep the impetus of control?
Kamakshi stood, taking her sleek canvas soft-sided case from the floor.
I don't suppose you'd like to attend.
Rosalind's wedding? I think I have other obligations that day.
Not Rosalind's wedding.
Kamakshi corrected.
Mine.
In India? As though she'd been waiting for just this moment to arrive, my new client reached down into her bag to pull out a boldly red envelope that gleamed with artfully designed gold foil scrolling. Kamakshi reached across the desk, displaying the side of the invitation on which my name had already been applied.
I bet a man in your position is always looking for new talent, and many of Prashant and my classmates may be of interest to you. You could write it off as a business trip. I'm sure Rosalind would also enjoy having you there.
But she'll be there with Kane? It came across as a question, a need for verification, like something had been lost in translation.
Yes, she'll be there with Kane.
Kamakshi confirmed.
And she'll be asking Kane to marry her. That is, unless anything unforeseen were to happen, something to change her mind.
Miss Puree, forgive my bluntness. I leaned back in my chair, stroking my chin. But it sounds to me as though you're suggesting I engineer a way to scuttle Rosalind's proposal to the very man she paid me to find for her.
What I'm asking you to do is clean up your mistake.
Through wide brown eyes, Kamakshi stared blankly at me.
Please don't take this the wrong way, but I think you failed to present Roz with the best candidate for the position. You?
How can you say something like that? You barely know me or anything about me, and even though I cut myself off before revealing too much. I'm very good at my job, and my instincts tell me Kane and Rosalind are very compatible.
Let's just say I have access to knowledge and insights you do not. And while you may have done research into Rosalind's psyche, I'm the world's leading expert on my best friend. Right now, Rosalind and you have bought into that persona Kane keeps for negotiation. But I assure you, he's a different person once he's closed the deal.
Be that as it may, if I were to pursue this, and it all goes awry, I can pretty much kiss my company goodbye. People depend on me and this business. I can't throw it away over a possibility, even for my own happiness. Do you have any evidence to support what you're saying? Kamakshi's eyes rolled to the ceiling.
Let's just say, and please don't ever share this with Rosalind, I'm intimately familiar with how he earned the nickname Kane more than Abel, and how he treats a woman after he's had her. He didn't even recognize me when we all had dinner the other night. I was just another of the nameless to him. I'm not suggesting he's the same male slut he was back at Stanford, but I recognize him using the same tactics on Rosalind he used on me, even if the ultimate goal is different.
I threaded my fingers in my lap, contemplation drawing down my expression into a straight line. After a moment, a grin spread across my face. My calendar has just opened up for next week, it looks like. I would love to accept your invitation.
Chapter 21. Rosalind. All evidence pointed toward a guild of Swiss watchmakers and Kane conspiring. At least glancing at the mocking hands on my gold-plated timepiece, I suspected plots afoot. Hadn't I asked to be picked up no later than 7:20? At 7:40, patience had ceased to be a virtue. At 7:45, it had also ceased to be a possibility. Just as I reached for my cell, a sleek limo, midnight black and with windows tinted like a gambler's soul, pulled up to the curb. I gave it only a passing glance as I searched for Kane's texts. Limos in this part of the city weren't novel. They weren't even uncommon. It wasn't until I felt the weight of eyes upon me and realized someone was speaking that I looked up. I tried to blink away the confusion. I'm sorry? The pale-skinned man wearing a warm smile leaned down and wrapped his hands over the handles of my bags.
I said, "Is this your only luggage, or is there more inside, ma'am?"
Confusedly, my phone still perched before me in squirreling position, I shook my head. In my silence, the man leaned over and took my two bursting at the seams carry-ons and maneuvered them to the trunk. The passenger side window lowered, and Kane's sultry voice wafted out.
Will you be joining me, Rose? Or did you want to walk to the airport?
My surprised tone still contained a tinge of ridicule. I thought you were going to pick me up so we could park in the short-term lot. If I'd known you'd do this, I'd have had Carmen arrange us something a little more modest. He sighed as he opened the door and stepped out, buttoning his black suit jacket as he stood.
You aren't cab class anymore. Time to upgrade. You're one of the big boys now.
I suppressed my inner grammar Nazi, which longed to interject, "Big girl," and cold-cocked my inner feminist, who sneered at my grammar Nazi and mollified her with a hissed, "Woman,"
Your company is going ballistic.
Kane continued.
Your name is surfacing in business reports around the globe. And you're the youngest female CEO in the Silicon Fortune 100. FYI. Also the most beautiful. And I might add,
His hands worked at the knot of his tie, straightening it.
your current boyfriend could make a nun weep with desire.
Despite my best efforts, the corners of my mouth twitched.
Forgive the cliché, but you've arrived. Nobody puts baby in a corner anymore.
Did you seriously just quote Dirty Dancing? Kane shrugged.
Yeah, so?
Oh my God, you may just be the sexiest man ever. He took the kudos by the horn and drew me in for a kiss. But if he thought the topic was settled, he was 2 eggs short of a dozen. I don't like big showy, shows of wealth. Don't get me wrong, it's a very nice car, and I'm sure... My hand reached out and motioned to the chauffeur waiting patiently curbside.
Sven, miss.
Thank you, Sven. Sven is an excellent driver, but a stretch limo? Couldn't you have at least gotten a town car? Kane put his arm around me, guiding me to the door. Sven, as quick as Kane was slick, positioned himself, ready to cloister us as soon as Kane was able to get me to sit.
You're not just Rose anymore. The CEO of Beta House is an up-and-coming executive who will not be trifled with. If you don't show yourself as someone who comes with a price tag and a certain expectation of class, your competition will assume you don't deserve it. You're the one who determines the worth. You will let others believe you have. Rosalind Betters goes to the airport in a limo.
Is this some sort of what they don't teach you at Harvard speech?
No, it's me telling you not to undersell what you deserve.
And that's when he slapped me on the backside.
So get in this car before we miss our flight, Betters, or you'll really get what's coming to you.
The sting of his tease radiated, ebbing far too slowly. I'd never been into the rough stuff, but with Kane, it seemed part of the package. His kisses, while enjoyable, were often demanding. He rarely passed the opportunity to squeeze my butt or fondle me through my blouse when we caught a moment just out of sight of others. Hence, my relationship with other parts of his package concerned me. I wasn't sure I disliked being spanked, but I knew I didn't like not being asked first. I made a mental note to discuss protocol with him soon. The impossibility of avoiding the subject of sex grew bigger each day. We'd been pushing the line on physical limits. No doubt we were both thinking more and more about getting sacked in the best way possible. As the limo laced city streets before finally making its way onto the freeway, I marveled at getting to this moment, this reality. I was dating Kane Kennedy. Kane more than Abel Kennedy. He hadn't garnered the nickname simply because of his smooth professional negotiating skills. His sensual proficiency resulted in a string of beaming post-coitus co-eds back at Stanford. Reports were he was worth the short-lived ride. Some had even made it a personal challenge to be selected as one of his hookups, referring to it as getting caned.
Rose?
My head spun back from observing passing buildings. His eyes tracked down to my lap. White knuckles and red fingers clung to my phone like it would save me from the plague.
Do you get nervous when you fly?
No, not at all.
Worried about the wedding, then?
A squirm in my stomach turned my thoughts to the bags in the trunk. Had I remembered to pack the ring? Had he found out about my plans for this weekend? Should I be honest and give it away right here and now, or bluff? Bluff, definitely bluff. We're still only dating. A laugh cracked across his features, revealing 2 white teeth.
I meant Kamakshi's wedding.
Oh no, His kiss kept the words at bay. As his mouth pressed to mine, filling my senses with the taste of his lips, his Armani Code cologne, the scratch of his stubble on my chin, all worry over the rusty art of passion fled. As the cliche went, it was like riding a bike. And oh, what a pretty bike Kane would be. His licentious labors didn't cease as the limo changed lanes, speeding my breath and slowing my thoughts. From the corner of my eye, I noticed that we had left the highway and were entering the airport complex.
Somehow I'm going to make you get what you deserve.
He teased between tastes of my lips. Hey, I booked us first class, I'll have you know. I grinned as I pulled against the restraints of my seatbelt, my body longing to get closer to his. The chuckle he let out surprised me.
That just proves my point.
I pulled away and followed his gaze to the window behind me. Outside, the view was both familiar and foreign. On the left, blue-gray water flowed over itself in a series of tribute waves. A rowboat with a single occupant sat in the distance, a fisherman taking advantage of the morn. On the right, a white building that looked more like a car dealership than the 5-story terminal facade I was accustomed to. Where are we?
SFO, of course.
He answered without qualification. Kane opened the door on his side, giving me a better view. Signage revealed the business before us as signature services. Kane, we're supposed to be at our gate for boarding in less than 90 minutes, and we still have to go through security in the international terminal no less. We'll miss our flight.
Will there be anything else, sir?
Sven deposited my bags with Kane's on a trolley he'd obtained from who knew where. It was only then that I noticed the man's reticence to look in my direction, and then remembered with embarrassment how I'd spent the last 15 minutes in a heated oral exchange in the back seat.
No, thank you.
No awkwardness in his demeanor, I noticed. Kane's hands wrapped around the trolley and began pushing it toward the portico.
Don't worry. When you're the only passengers, the flight waits for you. Still, I'm sure the crew would appreciate if we respected their time.
It took precisely a single kid punch in the shoulder for me to drag the details from him. Kane hated flying. Hated he was quick to reaffirm, not feared. He avoided it whenever possible, and whenever not possible, he took advantage of his company's private jet if it was available. But Kane, a private jet to Mumbai? That must cost a small fortune. His fingers raised to tilt my chin up. He ran the pad of his thumb over my still swollen lips.
Luckily, I have a few of those to spare.
I knew as much, but that so wasn't the point. To waste it like this on a 5-day trip to India, just to attend a friend's, not even your friend but my friend's, wedding, it just seems so exuberant. Both his hands anchored me as he locked our gazes.
Rosalind betters, I intend to lavish you with every comfort money can provide. You're my girl now, and you're going to reap the benefits of that very prestigious position. Believe me, a private jet beats any airline's first class. Not to mention, there are other advantages.
As his eyes chased down my profile, starting at my lips and settling on the top button of my blouse, my knees threatened to strike. My breath hitched, something I couldn't have done on cue if asked. As if sensing my loss of balance, Kane's arms wrapped around me, holding me up.
My, did you just swoon?
His smug mug made more than clear he could see what effect he had on me. Through a mouth as dry as a Mormon tabernacle, I somehow managed to answer, maybe, but I wish you would have told me. I wouldn't have dressed up like this.
If your clothing is bothering you, I'd be happy to remove it. Once we're airborne, of course.
If he thought he was getting around this through making me feel like a Roman candle, well, he was pretty close. Still, I had to try. I don't like someone making decisions like changing flights on my behalf without telling me. His smile flattened. Kane took up my hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles.
But I want to spoil you, Rose. Also, to be honest, I wanted to see how you'd react. As much as you're testing me, I'm testing you. We should be frank about that.
Spiked with irrepressible insult, I bristled. Keeping the truth from me was a test? That's not frank. That's deception. Tell me, did I pass? Something feral flashed through Kane's eyes, a possessive hunger that, despite my inner hesitation, made me flush from head to toe. He looked like he wanted to eat me.
It's not over yet. I have more pampering planned en route.
Oh, Lord and Taylor. And in a blink, he became all business again, leaving me hot and bothered to be hot. Kane clapped his hands and rubbed one over the other.
Tell you what, all decisions from this point on are yours. I defer to you completely. I am your slave. Let's start with you choosing our wine for lunch. Mind you, the galley aboard has a limited selection, but it's very refined. My tastes always are. After all, I picked you.
As we made our way into the plane, I asked myself if I misremembered. As far as I could recollect, it had been the other way around.
Chapter 22. Xavier. From Bangkok to Brittany, I'd eaten at enough foreign tables, learned the small talk and currency of enough lands, and watched the sun crawl its way over enough horizons to fill a Frommer's guide. Truth be told, however, the lobby of the Mumbai hotel impressed even my world-weary eyes. Persian rugs, woven in earthen tones, created a canvas on which furnishings befitting royalty had been arranged in a stunning juxtaposition of form and function. A double-edged thought flitted uncontrolled through my head. It would be a truly wonderful background to make an elaborate marriage proposal. I put my neck through one more rotation, trying to stretch and strain out the kinks. Business class on long-haul flights was a luxury to which I'd grown accustomed, but the last-minute booking left few options. I'd ended up in the very last row of economy, in a seat stuck permanently upright that forced me to endure watching an endless parade of people queuing for the bathroom. It also didn't help that I'd barely gotten a wink of sleep before the 8 a.m. flight. My subconscious had decided to nag me in the wee hours about the risks of renegotiating contracts.
You were very lucky, sir.
The hotel clerk's thickly accented English dragged me from my inner machinations. The clerk accentuated each word with a swirl of his extended index finger.
The hotel is very, very full. Booked to capacity. You must have snagged a room by the grace of God.
I shrugged off the suggestion. I refused to give in to the seductive thought that fate or some other higher power had had something to do with it. Last-minute cancellation, I guess. Do you have wireless here?
Of course, sir. The information will be in your room, next to the telephone.
After a few more minutes of typing, the clerk printed up a folio and asked me to sign where necessary. I took the small stack of papers, folded them and stuck them in my jacket pocket, turning just in time to catch sight of Kane Kennedy strutting through the lobby.
I thought that was you, Mr. Holmes, but I couldn't think why you would be here. Surely Rose would have told me that you were coming.
Mr. Kennedy, I offered a hand. Professional etiquette provided an essential lifeline in emotional crises. I'm not certain Ms. Betters knew. I was invited by the bride just a few days ago. Kamakshi Puree has recently become a client of mine, a referral from Ms. Betters herself.
Well, how hospitable of her to invite you.
I moved quickly to dampen any indication buried in that statement. Part of my compensation, actually. Access to the potential labor pool amongst her wedding guest.
Sir?
The same clerk who had helped me now looked to Kane with equal enthusiasm.
Checking in?
Kane gave a quick nod before placing his hand on my shoulder, applying a pressure that served as well as if he'd bared his teeth.
We'll see you around then?
Indeed. Temptation pressed me to ask after Rosalind, about whether they were staying in the same room. My teeth gnashed as I instead crossed the lobby and seated myself in one of the embroidered chairs. The implied conclusion of that thought made me simultaneously insanely jealous and ragingly self-critical. Why shouldn't Kane and Rosalind share a bed? They were in a relationship, no matter how nascent, in an age where the physical aspect of romance didn't require too much in the way of prologue. If Rosalind was about to ask Kane to marry her, surely she'd have wanted to have some precursor of what he was like in bed. My mind turned back to the kiss we'd shared outside the opera house, and how it had convinced me that we'd never leave the bedroom if ever we got together.
Zav?
Rosalind's voice scented me in a way almost holy. I looked up from my clutched fist to see her twinkling eyes. Rosalind's smile wiped away in a moment my weariness. Suddenly I felt like I could jump up and do laps around the vestibule. Ms. Betters, how are you? Keeping up the pretense of professionalism made a liar of my intentions. Still, here in a crowded lobby with Kane Kennedy nearby was no place to leap into action. She rolled her eyes as I stood.
What are you doing here?
I thought someone had suctioned out all the air from my lungs when Rosalind leaned in toward me. Holding her came so naturally, I noted as I encircled her in my arms. As though we'd been a long-lost set of matching statues, she fit perfectly against me. Sadly, she pulled back in a time that all but declared, "I only see you as a friend." I stayed my desire to pull her back, keenly aware that Kennedy, rushing along the clerk, had taken notice of our encounter. Kamakshi invited me.
Now I'm jealous.
She wrapped a strand of hair around the tip of her finger.
How is it you've just met Kamakshi, and you already feel comfortable enough to call her by her name, and somehow you've reverted back to calling me Ms. Betters?
What can I say? Kamakshi just rolls off the tongue while saying Rosalind is a chore.
Just wait a few more days until her name is Kamakshi Radhakrishnan, then we'll look at it again.
Imagine if you become Rosalind Beatrice Betters Kennedy. Or will you not hyphenate? My comment produced just the reaction I'd been hoping for. Her face looked like she had just taken a deep whiff of rotten eggs.
Oh my goodness, I hadn't thought about that.
I hear hyphens look very divisive, but I'm sure they're not that terrible. The corners of her mouth rose.
I meant of myself as Rosalind Kennedy. I mean, really, Rose Kennedy?
I doubt anyone will make the connection. But just to be sure, I'd avoid naming any children or future pets, Caroline or Teddy. Kane's arm suddenly appeared around Rosalind's body as he yanked her into his side. She tried to deride him. I recognized any more the look Rosalind got when she was lining up a verbal lambasting, but he quickly prevented the effort by sticking his tongue so far down her throat a physician could swab his cheeks to profile Rosalind's DNA.
What was that for?
She struggled to catch her breath when Kane pulled away.
A preview. I have the key to our room, and I thought you might like to go up.
He held the access card up as a symbolic middle finger in my direction.
They gave us quite a suite.
Kane leaned back in to press her lips to his once more, but Rosalind pulled away before he could manage.
What do you mean, our room?
Her teeth meshed her words into a frightening buzz.
We're supposed to be in different suites.
I turned, pretending to be busy reading something off my phone.
Really? Even after the airplane?
No wonder Rosalind had arrived in such a good mood. Apparently she'd been caned. Jealousy would win me nothing. Only my feelings for her would. Moreover, it seemed that any interlude they'd had mattered little now. Any afterglow burned under the heat of her barely suppressed anger.
Yes, even after the airplane. Why do you not have your own room? I told you to book one when I asked you to come to India with me.
Kane's ability to keep the upper hand had already slipped away, but he didn't seem to be aware of it yet.
I wanted to make this a romantic weekend, so a few days ago, I had my assistant call Carmen and ask her to add my name to your reservation. Then I canceled my own room. It was supposed to be a surprise.
First the plane, and now the hotel room?
I could practically picture her balled-up fist squaring on her hips as Rosalind shot back.
Oh, it's a surprise, all right. You should have asked me.
Kane sounded like a wounded puppy.
I'm learning that. But you have to understand that I did it because I want to spend as much time as possible with you. After all,
Don't say it, I thought. I jogged my memory for any recollection of the long-ago abandoned prayers of my Catholic youth. But Kane apparently didn't respond to cancellation requests from the Almighty. And then he did say it.
I love you, Rose.
Oh, Kane.
I turned just in time to see Rosalind roll up on her tiptoes and press her lips to Mr. Wonderful. Unlike her, Kane kept his eyes open, locking his mocking gaze on me.
But we can't stay in the same room.
Rosalind insisted in a more agreeable tone as she lowered herself.
Kamakshi's coming tonight with some of her hometown friends for a sleepover. You can't be there for that.
Kane's hands anchored on Rosalind's arms and squeezed.
Right. Sorry, I forgot about that. Okay, yeah, I will get another room.
There are no other rooms. I grinned with salacious glee from behind Rosalind. Sold out.
There's always a room available.
Kane sneered.
For those who can afford it.
He spun on heel and paraded back across the lobby to the clerk. It didn't take but a moment for him to lean over the counter and say something to the man, whose head shook in a quick response. A series of ever more dramatic gesticulations followed, scaling quickly from vague hand gestures to outright fingers in the chest.
Ever, the hostile takeover guy.
Rosalind sighed. She looked to me as though wanting my confirmation, but I wisely abstained. She turned back to the scene across the lobby that had now grabbed the attention of several onlookers.
There are many styles of negotiation. I prefer hopeful enthusiasm and the open about the drawbacks to gain trust method. Kane's more of the rabid dog school.
Where I'm from, that's usually called bullying. But also in my experience, bullies are very efficient in getting their way. Not this time, it seemed. After another slashing motion from the desk clerk, Kane's shoulders and act dropped. He made his way back to us, brandishing a key card at arm's length, and offered it to Rosalind.
It seems Mr. Holmes was correct. Apparently, there's a big medical conference nearby, and all the hotels this side of town are booked. He's going to call some places a little further out, see if he can get me a room.
Rosalind clapped her hands together.
Wait, I have the perfect solution. Why don't you just stay in Xavier's room?
What?
What? We both gawked at the blonde in confusion. But the blonde was straight up being sincere.
Please, Zav. We're going to be busy for the next few days with this elaborate Indian wedding stuff anyways. So all he'd be doing is coming at night to sleep there. I know it's a little awkward, what with the way you two know each other, but it's the perfect solution. Kane will be happy to pitch in for the costs.
Hopefully enthusiastic and open on the drawbacks, indeed. I'm not in need of funding, but I couldn't believe the things I would do to have this woman's favor. Now that I'd already flown to India, what more was sleeping with the enemy? Literally. Then again, studying Kane and the rage he was barely keeping from erupting over this whole fracas made me think there might be some advantage to assuring I knew of his whereabouts at night. Okay, let me just get another key from the clerk.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Have Gown Will Wed, written by Killian McRae. The text and audio copyright for this production are held by Killian McRae, the sole owner of the content therein. Digital voice narration provided by 11 Labs. The music you're hearing is Happy Alley, written by Kevin MacLeod and made available via incompetech.com. It's licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. http creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0. See you next time.